I don't know why I thought tonight's meeting started at 6. So I'm glad I came in a few minutes early, so I was gonna sit in my car for a little longer, and I'm glad I didn't. So welcome this evening to everyone. Welcome to all our guests, Ms. Vaughn, our additional guest, Mr. Bradley. How are you? All right, welcome EDAC members and guests to this evening's meeting. Please be aware that we are following CDC guidelines for social distancing and mask wearing during this meeting. If you need a mask, they are provided in the back of the room. Committee members, please do not forget to sign in. For attending guests, please be sure to sign in the guest sign-in sheet in the back of the room. Committee members, please don't forget to sign in. A public comment will occur before the closing of our meeting this evening. Each comment will have a maximum of 2 minutes. The public comment section portion of the meeting will begin, will be limited to no more than 1 hour. If more than 20 comments are received, time for the comment will be reduced to 1 minute. Approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda for the meeting?
Move to approve the agenda as written.
Second.
Second by Ms. Moore.
Discussion.
Yes.
Since we do have public comments, can we make that at the beginning of the meeting?
I am not sure. To defer to Mr. Edie. Are we able to rearrange?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, if it's your suggestion that you would be amenable to changing the agenda and moving public comment to the beginning of the, I would advise the chair to then ask the maker of the motion to add that as a part of his motion, that we would accept the agenda with the addition of moving public comment to the beginning of the agenda rather than the end.
The only reason I would discourage it is we do have guests that we invited to present to us tonight. And I don't want to delay their time at all if our comments extend into the longer time frame. So do we want to?
How many public speakers do we have?
Mr. Chairman, on the sign-in sheet, we have 3 members of the public who requested public comment.
That's 6 minutes. Is that too long to ask for public comment?
You can make a motion.
Are you making a motion?
Yes,
I would like to amend my original motion to have the public comment section as item 3 or item 4 on the agenda.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Mrs. Scott? All right, all in favor of changing the agenda as written to the moving public comment to number 4, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So that's 1 opposed. All right, so the motion carries. All right, so the motion is still on the table to approve the agenda. You approve the change, now can we approve the agenda? All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, point of integrity, I believe you need a motion.
We have to go back to the motion.
Mr. Williams, if I understand your motion correctly, originally you were offering a motion to just move the public comment to the beginning of the agenda, right?
That was the amendment to the original motion.
So then, the amendment to the original motion, the amendment to the motion, if the motion passed, are you saying that you want that to be a part of the agenda moving forward?
Yes.
So we will call the question on the motion that was on the floor.
Okay. All right, so is there a motion to approve the amended agenda?
So moved.
All right, then a second to the motion.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Carter. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Moving on to the approval of the minutes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes as written?
John Williams, motion to approve the minutes as written.
Second. Ms. Lumna. All those in favor of accepting the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. So we're going to put this in the public comment section. Ms. Torres, do you have a list of our public comments? Yes?
Yes, so first on our list is Mr. Timothy Dews.
Good evening, my name is Timothy Dews.
I'm a lifelong LGBT person. I live in Lee County, have lived here for over 20 years. I'm here to support the current best practices and code of conduct for the students of Lee County. We have groups who are challenging the code of conduct and challenging the best practices, but these issues that are in the code of conduct are covered under federal law. And in fact, today, Utah Supreme Court ruled 4-1 in favor of transgender youth in Utah to give them more rights because they are individuals just like everyone else. We got to treat our students equitably. We got to treat everyone equitably. We got to treat teachers, students. And if you're LGBT, you're LGBT. We shouldn't let people bully us into going back into the closet. It took us 50+ years to get out of the closet, and honestly, I'm not going back. So I would ask the advisory committee to take that into consideration when looking at code of conduct, looking at bullying, harassing, looking at things for students. Students sometimes can't do things at home that they can do in school. So let's protect the children while they're in school. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Annie Felkowski.
Hi, committee members. My name is Annie Felkowski. I use she, her, hers pronouns. I'm a Lee County School District alumni. I went to Allen Park Elementary, Lexington Middle School, Fort Myers High School, and Cypress Lake High School. I traveled from Tallahassee with my wife, Bryn, to express my disappointment with the blatant transphobia and homophobia and unwillingness for the school board members to do their homework in the last committee meeting. And call me crazy if you're a school board member, it should be mandatory for you to do your homework, especially when it comes to our most at-risk youth. I'm here to ask you guys today to firmly take a stand, ask the school board to keep the policy in place, the guidance in the code of conduct that has been there for a year, and to also create an LGBTQ student-led advisory committee. The school board knows better and they need to do better, and with your encouragement, we can make it happen. Thank you.
And our final speaker guest tonight is Willie Pakowski.
Hello, my name is Willie Pakowski. That's my sister. I use he, him, his pronouns, and I also went K through 12 in Lee County schools. I went to Gateway Elementary School, Dunbar Middle School, and Cypress Lake High School Center for the Arts. And I am also here to speak in support of my LGBTQ siblings, especially my trans siblings, who are currently being targeted by so many trans efforts all over the country and here in Lee County. I also want to shout out Chris Patrica. Whether or not you want to observe them, we do have rights, and they are enshrined in Title IX. So just want to bring that up as well. I watched the last public school board meeting with dismay on the topic of the LGBTQ equality guidance, as people hurled insults and misinformation at my trans siblings. When I was at Cypress Lake High School, our motto was, you will learn here, you will grow here, you will amaze yourself here. And I can admit that was true. It's where I found my first queer community. It's where I learned and was encouraged to lean into all of my superpowers, even the ones I had been told my whole life to hide. It's also where I learned that schools can be really complicated places. Like you said, school is often the first place a young queer person might start to come into their identity. And it's also the place where they might face the harshest consequences for daring to be themselves. The one-pager included in the Code of Conduct is a very small beacon of hope, an important one, an acknowledgement that trans teens are, in fact, humans. I ask you today to tune out the hatred and the vitriol, especially the infuriating people who cynically invoke Christ in an effort to make the world a smaller and dimmer place. And those people can remember Galatians 3:28, in which Paul writes, "There is no longer Jew or Greek, there is no longer slave or free, There is no longer male and female, an amazing trans reference, for all of you are one in Christ Jesus. Is that my time?
That is your
That's
time,
me.
sir.
Can I get my last sentence in? It's important. I set it up beautifully, I promise. While the Cypress Lake motto was directed towards the students, I offer it today to the adults on the school board. Please listen to the LGBTQ youth who are asking for your support. They are brave and brilliant and they inspire me. And perhaps if you listen to them, you will learn here, you will grow here, and you will amaze yourself here. Thank you for your time.
Thank you to those that came and expressed themselves through public comment. I do want to say that we are listening. We can hear what you are saying, and we are taking things into consideration and working together as a committee, as a group, as people, to find a place, a common ground for all of us. Next on our agenda, we have teacher and recruitment retention strategies. Once again, Suzette Rivera is here with us this evening to discuss teacher recruitment and retention strategies. We also have Dr. Angela Pruitt, Chief Human Resource Officer.
Hi, everybody.
Ms. Lynn Carroll, Executive Director of Leadership and Professional Development. Ladies, the floor is all yours.
Trafalgar.
Yes.
You look familiar. I knew it. My son went there. He graduated yesterday from UCF. Yeah, he loved you.
So first off, I want to thank you all for inviting us tonight. We have some important strategies we want to share with you, and also we are looking for your input tonight to help us recruit and retain the best teachers to the county. So again, my name is Suzette Rivera. I work with the recruitment team. And now I work my way into recruitment into the role that I am. And then my boss is right over here, Mrs. Lynn Carroll. So she's our executive director, and she oversees leadership, professional development, and recruitment. So tonight, we're going to go through our objectives. So we want to talk about current recruitment trends. So we're going to look at national data as well as statewide data. Some initiatives that we have implemented here in the district, as well as some of the strategies that we're looking at. And so there's also going to be some input from you all that we're looking for tonight. So there's going to be some opportunity for you to share out some ideas and help us recruit and retain teachers here to the district. So before we get started, just so that we develop some common vocabulary, we're going to be referring to the terms HBCUs and HSIs. So HBCUs are historically Black college and university, and there's some examples for you on here. And then HSI is Hispanic Service Institute. So for example, UCF and FAU are known as HSIs because they've reached 25% of their students are Hispanic. So that's how they get to be Hispanic Service Institutes. So we'll start looking at some of the status of colleges of education graduates. So we're just taking the numbers in, and then we're going to have an opportunity to have some discussion around that. So the number you see on your screen is 82,621. That's the number of college of education graduates for 2019. 10 years ago, that number was 102,000. So thinking about the growth, especially here in Lee County, how we are building schools and we are looking to hire more staff, especially teachers, this is kind of a scary number for us. Then out of those 82,000, 22,183 are teachers who identify themselves as a diverse background, and that's in the country. So now let's look at the state of Florida. So in Florida, we're graduating a little over 4,000 students from our colleges of education. And just so you know, a school district like Palm Beach, they hire about 1,500 teachers a year. So take those numbers as you're digesting this. And then we only had access to the HBCU College of Education graduates here in Florida, and that's less than 60. So that's our reality here in the state of Florida with the teacher shortage. So we're going to give you an opportunity, now that you've seen those numbers, we want you to look at those current trends, think about those current trends of those graduates, and list, you can jot them down or talk to a neighbor. Actually, we really would like you to share with a neighbor. Some recruitment barriers you've identified, and we can find some possible ways that we can overcome them. So if you can talk to a neighbor and maybe discuss those numbers and share some ideas or come up with an idea. And Lynn, feel free to interject.
I'll help facilitate that part.
This is her expertise.
On that, so if you just, side shoulder partners, respond, listen. Okay,
Absolutely.
How are you?
There's an interesting topic. Talk about demographics, a lot of the strategy, but part of it, honestly, is financial. Not financially, incentives to be. I just say it across the nation. I think there's been some finance of teachers money costs. That's one area that we have to find ways to incentivize, whether it's entry to college or not paying as much, scholarship programs, as well as when you ask them to what school districts are doing as far as incentives for employment, whether that's first class on rent, offer your job, first class on rent, there's incentives there to like incentivize to be there, working with developers, working with apartment complexes. Financial part is the biggest one for real estate.
Actually, like finance is an issue. I like it on many businesses. I call it
See, that's why I'm.
Black students. I mean, everyone did. And they're bringing anybody else in it. It just means, I need the number. I need to do something about these numbers. Because everybody's scared.
I think parents have a lot of things to do with the finances too. Things moving to next week. My son graduated Friday from UCF. With a master's degree in that week. But you know, my brother look for the scholarship. That's a great. Money's there. It's how hard are you willing to look for it? You know what I'm saying? So I think parents to look at how you do for these numbers and this, you know, early years.
And I think also too, I think we haven't shifted how we teach. So the way we teach is attractive to students. So we have to be willing to shift our pedagogy. You know, what do the stage on stage, we want to be more interactive. People see that, they're like, okay, I can do that now. But they see a teacher is like, here's assignment, here's this, can you do this? Like,
It's not relevant.
Pedagogy is very important. It's not the website.
If I can pull your conversation back together, put a period or an exclamation point on your last sentence. Thank you. I was walking around taking some notes. We'd love to hear from some of you, some of the discussion that you were having. Adam has been kind enough to offer to type in the computer, but I brought my favorite Parkwood notebook. Taking notes as you were talking. I still love paper and pencil. So would somebody like to share? Thank you, Holly.
I think one of the biggest things, and as a realtor, I'm almost ashamed to be the one to bring this up, but our housing cost is just, it's unbelievable. I was saying to Ken, I have a daughter, 34, and a son-in-law who between them have 3 college degrees. They're living in an apartment attached to the back of my home because they can't afford to live on their own. They don't have extravagant bills or houses or clothes or, I mean, they're, you know, it's just life. It's just, so I think that housing is going to be a huge, huge barrier. I know it's not just Lee County, it's all over the world, but
It's area.
it's a
want
huge
their own home.
expense.
They wanna feel like, just like their parents.
Yeah,
They
and
can
it's
do
not
that.
just buying, it's even renting.
Right.
I mean, y'all go try and find a decent rental.
Thank you. Okay.
No, I second that point. I think we need to find a way to work with the legal department so that we can find a builder and land and some sort of program that can offer,
I explained what we have done. I started exploring that my first year in this job.
That would be so cool.
Don't give up.
I haven't. There's a lot of challenges to it though.
Yeah.
Just like in everything else, you know, things are tough and it's everyone's job to overcome objections and obstacles.
That's right.
Second point would be to look abroad. This is the greatest country and so many people want to move. I'm Colombian and right now I know about 32 million people that want to leave the country because of the state of despair that it's in. And there will be plenty of workforce available in other countries very willing to work for the salaries that are provided here, provided the opportunity and the right papers to work. So also work with the legal department so that we could maybe fill a void, whether it's temporary or it's a permanent.
Thank you. Anybody else would like to share? Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. My name is Haitham and I'm an engineer. Since I was in elementary school, I loved to do engineering stuff. My father is an engineer and he made me love this career. It's paying me well now, but it took me quite some years to get to this pay level. So for me to say, first, and then the second thing is when I came to the US, it took me close to 20 to 30 years to see the difference between the way we taught in Egypt and we taught here in the US. And I really commend the way you guys teach. It's totally different way. So yes, I mean, it's very interesting to bring people from outside, but the culture and the way we teach is, in my opinion, totally different than my country. I don't know other countries. So if you want someone to be interested to become a teacher, raise them from when they are middle high or when they are in high school. Give them that interest. They will sacrifice to be in front of students or to be online to teach. They will give their best. They will live in a not a one-bedroom apartment, but they will live in a one room. They will share rooms so that I become a teacher. And that's what I did. I used to, I'm sorry to say, and I hate to share this with you, but I used to sleep on the floor in the US so I can go to school and become an engineer. So if you install this in people, and you can begin with having programs, well-educated students or well students can help younger students or students that cannot cope. And that will love the teaching process and will make it easier for you. Thank you.
Thank you. You're going to hear a little bit about that. So we're working on some initiatives like that. You'll hear some of that. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I want to echo what he said and what he said. So that those numbers, they're scary. Definitely we have to fish outside this lake. There's no doubt about it. And whether you like it or not, I've been working with Suzette and other people, Crystal and other people. We're trying to see how we can even get those teachers out there. Because there's countries with an overflow of teachers. I assure you, if we get them from Kenya, we can get hundreds of them because they don't have the job. They have been trained, there's no schools there. So we get very good teachers, we're going to do that. But the other thing is, I think we need to make our programs or what people see in our websites more attractive to minority people. I was just talking to the dean in the college just now, coming from there. We have to make to show pictures of people like me there. There are not many there. We have to have diversity statements that just talk about I am welcome here. We have two things. We are talking about Dr. Blakely. Even the way we teach, the way we do things, we have to make it more attractive, because education is not always the most attractive thing anyway, historically. But since those children come in here because families are moving here like crazy, like never before, they still need to be taught. We have to think outside the box. And I like what you guys are here to come up later on, what you are doing outside the box. So those numbers, we can't depend on them.
Yes, it is. Okay, yes, ma'am, one more comment.
And I will say this, when I was a student at Fort Myers High many, many moons ago, I'm sure the teachers didn't think about this at the time, but I wanted to be a teacher. I went to about a year and a half worth of college to become one, and I kept hearing from all of these other teachers saying, oh my gosh, you do not want to be a teacher, we don't make enough, blah, blah, blah. So, I hate to say it, but I ended up dropping out of college because I heard all these teachers say, you could make more money running someone's office. You're gonna have less hassle, blah, blah, blah. So I gave up.
All right, okay, Crystal, I don't want to cut anybody off. Crystal?
My oldest child teaches math at MSW, and she has a teaching degree, but she was recruited in her math class. The school went in and said, we need teachers, specifically STEM teachers, please get this degree and work for us. So she did. I think it's important to also go into the classes and offer incentives to the children actually in college who are understanding their choices and their financial decisions and thinking about jobs in the future.
Yeah, great. I think, again, you're gonna hear a little bit more about that. I agree, everybody here sort of hit on that, right? We have to make education a priority. It's how you grew up in your house, right? In my house, my mom's proudest moment that 3 of her daughters were teachers. And to write home to mom and say, hey, I have 3 daughters who graduated and are gonna be teachers, was her proudest moment. But we grew up hearing that, right? It was not an option. You were going to college. And to be a teacher, where I am from, is the highest thing that you can be. It's very revered and very respected. So I think that is important, and it goes back to what we've all said, right? We have to show that it's important. So we're gonna continue on our conversation. I thank you for that input, and we're gonna get to dive a little bit deeper, just a couple of slides down.
Thanks, Lynn. Okay, so here are some initiatives that we're currently working on in our department for recruitment. I want you to take a minute just to read this quote. Yep. Right? Exactly what you were saying. It seems like the common theme that was from that first discussion, right? So this is something that resonated huge with Lynn and I. And so going forward, this is how we're going to leverage the home court advantage. So really working with our students, we have students in our schools that we can start building that pipeline to hopefully become teachers in the future. So first what we're looking at doing is starting a pilot program at an elementary school and begin with a future educator program. So really start, getting a teacher mentor involved. It's almost going to work like a club type of situation. So we're going to have a sponsor, the students will meet monthly, but we're really in the infancy stages of that, and we're working closely with communications to help market that. So we're going to start that soon in this coming fall with one of our elementary schools. Something that you may or may not have been aware of, we have 2 scholarship opportunities going on right now. And the first one we're going to share with you is our Suncoast Grow Your Own. So the 3 different levels for Suncoast Grow Your Own is we have a 4-year scholarship to high school students. So these high school students will go on to become, go through the College of Education at either FTC or FSW. And Suncoast has low pay for all 4 years. And their agreement is that they have to come back and teach in Lee County for a minimum of 3 years. Then our paraprofessionals to teachers, we have a great pool of paraprofessionals that just need a little support to continue their degree. So this scholarship will actually cover their final 2 years in the College of Education of their choice here in the state of Florida. And then teacher retention. So these are our 2nd or 3rd year teachers who work in a Tier 3 school, and they have to complete coursework to obtain their professional certificate. And sometimes they have to pay for that coursework out of pocket. So these funds actually help cover those costs so that they can get their professional certificate and stay here in Lee County. So right now we have about 21 recipients who are totally going through the process at different levels. And we're excited to continue expanding that in the next few years.
Do you have the money
So far, we do, yeah.
to continue to expand?
Yeah, we do, yes. Yeah, good question. And then our other scholarship opportunity we have is our Legislators Grow Your Own. So we have a Tier 1 and Tier 2 program for these scholarships. The first one is targeting our teaching academy students. So those are our high school students that are in those academies at selected high schools. Again, it looks very similar to the one next to it. So it's a 4-year scholarship to students that agree to come back and teach in Lee County. And then also, kind of a little bit what Crystal was saying. So this one's current FGC and FSW students who are possibly in other majors, but they want to switch to education. They have an opportunity to apply for this scholarship and receive funds to cover for their final 2 years as long as they commit to completing the program and then coming back to teach in Lee County. So again, all scholarships have the language where all recipients have to return back to the district to teach for a minimum of 3 years. So these are just some opportunities that we have to help create and build our own pipeline of teachers right here in our backyard. And then some other initiatives and barriers that we have right now in the county. So some initiatives, we're looking at deliberate candidate sourcing to schools, and what that means is we are really taking a deep dive look into some of our schools that maybe need some teachers, they need to increase the diversity of their staff. And what we're doing is trying to match candidates to those locations to help with that, and because we know that's also a recruitment type tool in that school. If students see teachers that look like them, we hope that they will want to become a teacher themselves. And then also increasing our presence at the HBCUs and HSIs. So this past year, COVID did a number for all of us, and unfortunately, many of the recruitment events that we had scheduled to attend were canceled. So we're ramping up to start that again and hopefully become more present at those campuses, because we realize that it's just a different opportunity to be in front of students than to be on a computer screen in front of them. And then some of our barriers we've talked about already. So the number of graduates in colleges of education we see are lower. And then also we see that there's just less events targeting teachers. So many of our colleges that used to host events just for their college of education are no longer hosting those events, and they're having their students attend like an all majors recruitment fair or just a general job fair, because the numbers are smaller, right? They're less, there's not enough students graduating. And so the students that are attending these bigger recruitment fairs are just getting lost in the shuffle, or they're just not attending because they're not seeing a school district or other organizations participating. And then something important to highlight here, we used to be able to provide a relocation bonus through Title II funds, and those are federal funds. Just this past year, actually, the language for that has shifted, where we're no longer allowed to tie it to any type of recruitment bonus. So that actually has been a barrier for us, because in the past we were able to offer an incentive to come and relocate to the area, and right now we don't have those funds. So we have to think of other ways or other strategies to help recruit, talented teachers here to this area. It's a federal guideline change, so it affected everybody that is a recipient of that, unfortunately. To answer your question, how to get it back, I'm not even sure how.
So if your legislators think this is important, the way that the money is funded, that really is the way you're going to do it. You have to use your voice.
Yeah.
But that did hurt, because to the very point I think that Holly talked about, we have young kids that want to try to move to Florida, first, last, security, you know how that goes, and then to say, and by the way, you won't get your first paycheck until the 3rd week of school, right? So they have their holding, unless they have a mom who's going to be kind enough to let them, hey, let me write you a check to help you. It is a barrier. So that was always nice that we have that money to be able to help if you know. When we have it.
Is that question on that last one? Was that the relocation bonus? You said it was federal. Was that still under Betsy DeVos?
We were getting that out of Title II money.
But I'm curious.
I think
was that under the prior administration, or was it because I'm reacting to how do we get it back?
Well, it changed at the start of the year,
So
in July.
July of last year,
Yes.
So that's,
under the previous administration.
So it could
So
change.
how do you get it back? We may have already answered that, let's see.
Very good point. So recruitment during COVID looked a little different. So if you had the opportunity to attend any events that our staff would have been at, we would have been with a table, handing out goodies, scheduling interviews, offering contracts. Obviously, that didn't happen this past year. So we had a lot of virtual events, and any virtual events we could attend, we scheduled. The issue with the virtual events, so let me go back. At an in-person event, we could talk to candidates that were just walking by our booth, and they have never heard of Lee County, they have never thought about a career in education, but we could engage with them and talk to them and, help encourage them to a new career. Unfortunately, with the virtual events, most of the platforms, the students had to sign up to talk to us. So there was no opportunity for us to do the recruitment and the engaging of the students. So this past year was really challenging with that because we were really at the mercy of students wanting to sign up with us. And we found that many of the students already had a connection to Lee County, or they had a friend that relocated here. So it really, really looked different. And so, well, as the universities would say that they were marketing the events, we would go on and just do additional marketing. So we would do some targeted ads. So if we knew we were doing a FAMU virtual event, we actually we had Priority Marketing, which is our marketing firm that we work with, create an ad that featured one of our teachers that was recruited at FAMU and currently works here at one of our schools. Because we've also realized that when we have ads that have our own employees, they receive the highest number of engagement or clicks. So, and you'll see that, a picture of that ad here shortly. Leveraging LinkedIn. So many of you may be on LinkedIn. There is now an opportunity where candidates can schedule one-on-one calls. So they have access to my calendar, whether I like it or not. They schedule calls with me. And I talk to them one-on-one, find out their journey, find out their path, and really just give them that personal attention because we need teachers, and there's really just another opportunity for us to continue engaging. And then webinars. So this past spring, we reached out to the Felkowski and hosted a virtual webinar with students, anyone who wanted to attend from Bethune, and it was just here's the information about careers in education in the school district of Lee County. We hosted 2 webinars, one in the morning, one in the afternoon, and we had one of our team members, Dr. David Stannon, actually lead that. So we partnered with the Career Services Center at Bethune to host that event to hopefully engage students who may be interested in relocating to the area.
Did you get any applicants from that? Was it successful?
Well, we got maybe about 5 applicants.
That's better than,
yeah. It is, you're right. We were hoping for more, I'm being completely honest and transparent.
How do you eat an elephant, one bite at a time?
Yeah, we tried it, right? So, definitely an opportunity there, hopefully to grow and to maybe do something a little different. But we did survey the students to find out what they would have liked to see different, so we're kind of analyzing. Yeah, thanks. And then I'm gonna go into now some strategies that we're working on, as well as some of the focus that our Minority Recruitment and Retention Committee has been working on for this year. So first, these are recruitment strategies that we've been using. So marketing and visibility, boutique events, and focused affinity groups. So I'm gonna go into more detail for each of those, and then there's gonna be another opportunity for you all to connect with each other to give us some ideas. So these are the ads I was referring to. So the first one here is the young gentleman that was featured in our FAMU ad. And then the young lady in the middle was a teacher recruited from Puerto Rico. And then of course our scholarship opportunities, that was a flyer that went out to all universities. So again, we wanted to make sure that people that are on Facebook, that are on LinkedIn, that the users are seeing themselves in these ads so that they can actually want to come and teach here in Lee County. And then this is a video Jared wanted me to share. So we actually did recruitment videos with some of our recruits. Mr. Malloy was actually featured in one of them long ago. And again, I'm not sharing that one, so don't worry. But these were targeted to teachers when we were doing an event in Puerto Rico. We would use these videos to create ads so that teachers in Puerto Rico can see that somebody from the islands came and that they can do it too. Hopefully the sound's working.
Si tienen esta oportunidad, no lo piensen. Es la mejor decisión que van a tomar, no se van a arrepentir. Yo tomé esta decisión y no me arrepiento. Lo único que me arrepiento es de no haberlo hecho antes. Les recomiendo el link. El distrito ayuda mucho a la transición de Puerto Rico aquí a Fort Myers y Lee County. La experiencia ha sido muy buena. No se van a arrepentir, no tengan duda. Es la mejor decisión. Hola, mi nombre es Jorge Almodóvar, soy maestro del distrito escolar de Lee County.
Okay. So we have that video also in English as well, but for the purposes for marketing in Puerto Rico, we have that window in Spanish. Happy to say that he is still teaching here with us. He is actually a PE teacher over in the West Zone now, so happy to say he's still around. So I'm gonna lead you into the next dive-in opportunity so that we can get some more ideas.
Okay, so if you look at the next question, I'm looking for you to give us or make some recommendations on how could we highlight our best and brightest recruits to support what we're trying to do, hire more into the district. So if you would go back to your original talk,
Before we break, I apologize, I was
Yes,
breaking
no worries.
the forum. I had to
I'm
leave a
sorry.
little earlier, so I wanted to make a statement before I left, so I apologize to interrupt. But one of the initiatives, I know we talked with some of the folks in the district as well as at FGCU, so I work at a university, is the Call Me Mr. program, which is based out of Clemson University, which it creates kind of that pipeline that we'll be talking about encouraging young folks from the district to go into college of education and to recruit these diverse pools. I've been talking with the provost who just transitioned to the university, as well as the dean of the college, Dr. Tom Roberts. And they're fully supportive of taking some next steps about engaging with the Call Me Mr. program. Dr. Peter will continue the conversation. I had to leave a little early, but I want to put that on the platform before I left out. So the university is committed to it. I know we've had some initial conversations. So I think the summertime would be a good opportunity for us to continue those conversations as a recruitment attention initiative.
Thank you for sharing.
If I could for a second, I want
Yes.
to thank Vice Chair Blakely, Dr. Blakely, thank you for being a willing participant to start the conversation for the university to bring that pipeline. And it really illustrates the importance of community citizen feedback as to thinking outside of the box for recruitment. So Dr. Dia Newton and I are on a couple of community groups, and so that started the conversation. And then going over to FGCU and Dr. Blakely and the leadership team of taking that, but knowing that he's a member of this committee, to be able to bring that nexus together between the university and the school district. So we look forward to continuing conversations, but I want to personally thank you for the work you're doing at the university to support our district initiatives.
But I want to add something. I know Janet will not place himself because that's who he is. But all these ideas started with Janet from the beginning. We started about almost more than a year ago when this office was created. Then Krista came to a conference. So things are moving on. To have Dr. Blakely as the Dean of Students in a position of power has been very helpful. But I think, yeah, we need people like that, man. But all people like that help. But anyhow, it's working. We'll get there. We're with you.
Thank you. Yeah, we have to be a team. So I'm going to ask you to go back to your original partners and take a couple of minutes just to discuss this question, and we'll see if we have some more new ideas to share back out. Thank you. 2 minutes.
It's mine. So you're all mine now.
I'll schedule a meeting with Dr. Roberts like this week.
I mean, it's not something my bosses. Oh, yeah. I got a bit of detail, but
I can tell he's still, as you said, I want to feel that I'm being supported. So the more we do something, they can see passionate. I am. I
Now, this crisis, everybody should have license. The teacher was the best thing that we ever had. The teacher was the king, the mother was the king, and you are the license, Are you going to talk about our we have to make it.
No, you got 10 minutes left. I know. Especially in.
But before
It don't matter.
no matter, yes. So how have you been?
Good. Good. Keep on going, my phone ready, but I'm telling you.
Wow, yes. That's
Every disagree.
and you're still young, and you're a graduate now, you know?
Yeah. He's young and he's moving to Los Angeles for an internship. It should be. Yeah, he can't turn it down. I told him he cannot turn it down. Not only did he give me. That was the, this is Brandon. I don't know if you remember him. Brandon.
Pull you back together. I do know that I see the picture. That is so glued up. Adam, are you gonna capture again for me? Thank you. I tried to write things down, but then I'm so engaged, I forgot to make my notes.
Is it just for looks or?
No, I'm writing, I have a lot of notes. Nobody will be able to read them, but that's okay. Would anybody like to share out your idea? You don't have to.
Sure, I'd love to share. Well, again, so as of right now, you are highlighting almost internally, internal newsletter, blast that goes inside, and then to some extent on the social media platforms. I'm just thinking that there are so many media companies right now that are hungry for content that they would be more than willing to help you highlight some of these best and brightest recruits, both on the English side and also on the Spanish side, since we're looking for diversity.
Love it.
That's why we ask if you knew Jackie, and Jackie is just one small example. There's plenty of time that the stations want to fill. There's a dog that appears, the dog of the day, and the Adopt Me type of program, and they get, you've seen it. You get a lot of visibility from that. So reaching out to the media and saying, hey, would you be interested? I think they're gonna love it. And in addition to it coming out on broadcast, there's a social media effect because most of that gets posted and reshared, and that's something that the person's family, whether they're here or outside in their circle, can see. So it would have like a multiplier effect.
Awesome. Great idea, thank you. I'll have to talk about that. Did you have something?
We talked about a social group thing in EDAC a few years ago. We talked about creating social groups so that teachers, first-year teachers, experienced teachers, anybody in the education field could get together outside of work to help meet some other educators, some people in the community. But we found that as they meet new people and make relationships, it makes them have more ownership to Lee County. It makes them want to stay. So, when people are coming down and seeing there's things to do and people like them that are doing things, and it makes them more inclined to want to be here.
Which is a perfect segue to this group right here. Anna, right? Anna.
Oh, yeah. So we were chatting about mentorship, program within, the school or within the school system, I guess, so that if you had somebody who was coming in from USF College of Education, that they could be paired with somebody within the district or several teachers who had also gone to USF, or if somebody was coming into, you highlighted Puerto Rico, they could pair somebody up who had been there. And it's not, like I said, it's not for everybody, and we're now adding time to the teacher's day, because most teachers already work 25 out of 24 hours. And so I suggested that there would need to be compensation, which then brings us back around to the problem of money.
Always comes back to that, doesn't it? Yes.
I just have a question, and this is just me thinking out loud, but how easy is it to recruit a minority to come to Robert E. Lee County, Florida? They just graduated college, they got this piece of paper, they are excited they can go anywhere in the world because of this piece of paper. What makes them want to come to Robert E. Lee County, Florida to be a teacher?
I think it's people, I think it's what this group talked about, they have a personal connection, we try to provide that. In recruitment, we're talking about the bandwidth, we only have so many people that we have available to assist us with that work, but I think it's a great family, and that's what we do, we market it, we're gonna have relationships. When you come here, the number one question we get from teachers is, what support am I gonna get once I get here? What does your beginning teacher program look like? So we make sure we're available. Suzette, I don't think she's going to be speaking about this, but we have even a career changer academy. So people that come from another degree major, every summer we have a time, we offer training to help those people, and we build relationship with those. And so I think we're on cohort number 4, and we maintain those. We check in with those people all the time. We have meetings with them to make sure they're comfortable. So I think it's about helping them build relationships and providing as much support as we can. To be honest, that's what we're marketing. We're trying to make it a personal connection, to come and be a part of and I say it all the time, I know it's trite, but to come and be a part of our family, because that's really what it's like. I've been here 29 years, worked with the school district of Lee County, and I've loved every moment, every position I've had, and when I'm out there talking to people and I'm recruiting, that's exactly what I'm saying. Come and be a part.
So when you hire someone on, are you asking them what made you pick us?
We do survey, yes, we survey teachers. As Suzette said earlier, when something is like, for example, we had 5 people that came to the Ben Cookman event, we try to survey, what could we have done better? What, was there an ad we missed? Was there, right, so we try to get feedback. We're in the middle of doing a connection event right now. We have 399 people at that connection event, because we usually have it live down here and the hallways are jam-packed, and we've not been able to do that for the last 2 years because of COVID. And we survey everybody, whether you're hired or you're not.
We ask them,
Yes.
why did you come,
Yes.
why didn't you come?
Yes.
What would have made the difference? What would have?
We
So
analyze
much
all that
data.
data. Yes. Because we can't just go on what we feel or think, right? We look at the hard data, and then we try to go to work on that. Whether that's, how do I help Holly's son or daughter find a place to live? Like, we try to do
I'll do
that.
that, thank you.
Okay.
You stay in your profession.
Okay, you'll have that, okay. And listen, gladly. But that's what I'm saying, so we try to act on the data that we collect to be able to move forward. Yeah. Right, we try to be responsive, yes.
So, going back to my profession, I'm in sales. I hate to say it, but I am. And in a way, recruiters are also in sales.
Yes.
So, one of the things that we discuss is that you have to stay, for example, I'm assuming that you two are 2 of many who go to these recruitment fairs.
Yes.
So you're sitting at the desk, or you're standing and greeting possible teachers to be. Jane walks up, she seems real interested.
Yeah.
Do you ask Jane for her contact information?
Oh, yes.
You make them sign a Google form.
And then when a month or 2 months or 3 months down the road, do you keep in contact with James?
Yes.
So
Okay, cool.
they come into our database, and then they are automatically enrolled into our monthly newsletters that we send out about where we're gonna be in the district, or where the district gonna be recruiting. And then if we know there's a tie, if we had a conversation with that candidate that is interested in teaching, really following through, then we, once it gets closer to graduation, we follow back up with that.
If you so much as start an application,
We know.
you're ours.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
We
That's
are-
true. Wonderful.
Until
Because
Brandon.
Sales is,
Until
yeah, I
Brandon.
hate to say, but you have to say in their face, that yes. You know,
In Lee County, as soon as if you go to PeopleSoft to start an application, if you don't finish it, we call you and say, hey, we noticed that you were interested in coming to Lee County, but you didn't complete your application. What can we do to help you complete the application? Like, we are on it.
Here's a 20% off coupon.
If I had that, that would be awesome. Yes, sir.
Yeah,
And then I'll come back.
to Mr. Williams' question, quite often you are leading a question like Robert Ely, the history, the whole. The younger people are not so much. Many people my age, that's important. The younger people are not tired of it. They're looking at the beaches and the beauty of this place. So we can shine what we have. The history will take care of itself in the process. But I wanted to ask a question there, you guys. There are some programs you mentioned there about, let's say, students who are changing to education. How much publicity do we give, let's say, the university? How much publicity, let's say a student wants to change to education. I mean, BA in FGC or FSW. How much do I know that if I go to education, I can get some benefits from there? How much publicity?
They go there.
So actually, one of our team members sets up a table. They work with the Career Services Center. They set up a table near some of the colleges to help to market that as to the scholarship opportunities. And then she's been able to connect with other colleges, like other professors in other colleges, to go speak to some of those classes, to some of those students about it. So in the business, College of Business, I feel like some of the science ones, math.
Yeah.
College of Arts and Sciences should be the main one. It's the largest there. Those are easier to change than engineering or
Yes,
those other
we do.
programs.
Career changers are important to us. They become a big customer for us.
We identified through the data a couple of years ago
Right.
that we were gonna have to go after those non-traditional candidates, or we would never be able to staff our schools.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah. So we cover all that. I'm sorry, in the back.
Oh, no, it's okay.
No.
No, it's okay. I wanted to share what I had shared with you. I didn't, say it out loud, but, you know, a significant portion of the workforce is made up by the LGBTQ plus community. Why would an LGBTQ plus teacher want to come live in a county where they could be afraid of being fired and they could get evicted from their apartment if somebody finds out that they're LGBTQ plus? So as we continue to push forward to have these policies in place for all of our students, we also have to remember that everybody is watching us. And the longer that this continues, why would anyone who's LGBTQ plus come here and work in this district or live in this district?
Yes, sir. Did you have another comment?
I have another question, actually, and it's like, from that data, what is your number one reason why people come to Lee County, Florida? Is it because they have a family member here that needs the assistance?
That's exactly why.
All right, that's an issue.
Yep. I mean, we've even gone to, I remember this vividly, we've gone up to USF in Tampa to recruit, and students there didn't know where Lee County was. And that was just in Tampa, 2 hours away. So, yeah.
And we tried, originally when Florida Gulf Coast first opened, we had a lot of recruits who came and worked in the county because it was mostly local kids that were going to college. But now it's become pretty popular and we have kids coming from all over the United States. Well, they want to go home.
We have less graduates overall, and definitely less local graduates.
Yes. So that's why we're trying to go backwards with our pipeline. Like we do host a big high school event down here every year. We did it virtually this year. It was so very interesting to do that with hundreds of high school students. But we did it because we want to make sure that we are, to your point, right, we're marketing, we're trying to look at our pipeline. We're going to start a little younger because I think we've got to look at who's here and get those people starting there who wants to stay and who wants to teach. Yes, sir, in the back.
just in support of what Sean said and what Crystal said, as a person who supports diversity, and I'm from a diverse background, I want to go to a place where I feel comfortable and welcome. So if Robert Lee County, which is a very obvious name of a general from the Civil War, would be, the impression would be, are these white supremacist county or not? Collier County, you see all over the news what's going on. So, and I'm not talking about only, folks like myself, but all different, I want to come to a place where I feel safe and can be productive. So that's, if the brightest recruiters can give guarantee for the new ones that we are treated well, whatever your background is, in this place, everybody would love eventually to come.
Yep, thank you. Okay, yeah, you're almost done, sorry, I know you have a time limit.
So here's some other
Discussion has been rich.
Yes, it has.
Sorry.
Thank you so much for your engagement. So some of the other strategies that we're working here in recruitment with our Minority Recruitment and Retention Committee is those boutique events, which we talked already earlier, so I'm not going to go into detail about that. But really this new one is the focus and affinity groups. So what an affinity group, what we're doing with that is we're creating, we look at the disparities between teachers who are male teachers and teachers of color. And that's what we've identified here in the district. And we're inviting them to be a part of a discussion to find out what attracted them to Lee County and what is keeping them here. So I'll go through some data on that here. So for starting in August of 2020 to January 2021, we have 555 new instructional staff members. So out of those 555, 150 teachers are identified in those subgroups. So our Minority Recruitment and Retention Committee, we reached out to those teachers, those 150, and we received responses back from 33 of them, and 22 of them are participating in these affinity groups. So we will be, yes, sorry.
And I want to, it's an important point that Chair Quisenberg mentioned, but this was an idea and part of the conversation from EDAC about 3 or 4 years ago, when Dr. Minaya was chair, and we talked about focus groups. To Chair Quisenberg's point, how do you have these intentional conversations and opportunities for groups of students and now the teachers to collaborate and talk about ways for continuous improvement? But sorry for interjecting, but I wanted to make sure I raised that point that this was an EDAC conversation about 3 years ago with the affinity groups, but this shows how ideas that start with this group, we're seeing some resonance that move forward to actual implementation. So we're now in that phase now, Chair Quisenberg. I think you might have, and Dr. Dianulli, were ones who were part of the committee at the time, but I wanted to make sure that nuance was not lost on the.
And honestly, some of the questions back from 6, 7 years ago that we do ask, to your point, Jared, that we do ask in our exit surveys are a result of EDAC conversations from 6, 7 years ago. So yeah, it's great stuff that comes out of this.
Yes, and I just wanted to add this, give you kudos. There's been a student who have been following with Suzette, somebody recruit, and Suzette, our advocate here, I wanted to know what the process is like, so the student, so what's going on? What's going on? We're just about to get there, I believe. But I want to tell you, Peter, even if I did not want to come to Lee County, Suzette would not leave me alone. So, would not grant me, So I want to give you kudos for that. It was just so beautiful to hear that you follow the process with 2 months or 3 months. You'll be here in a few next month or so.
Yes, that's what I'm looking for.
From you, just.
Thank you for that. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, thank you. So we will be hosting these affinity groups coming up in early June and hoping to have some rich conversation to find out, like I mentioned earlier, what brought them here and what is keeping them here. So hopefully we'll be able to develop some strategies from those conversations. I'm trying to see, I think in the interest of time, we'll skip this one. And then just so you guys can see kind of overall, looking ahead, like what we're looking at doing some initiatives. So the first one we talked about is our Grow Your Own Scholarship Opportunities. So we've kind of gone into detail with that. And then networking, we're looking to connect some of our new teachers with peers or administrators who are alumni, from that. So we're hoping to kind of do some sort of informal, like social gatherings, and we'll probably come back to Jarrett and work some more through that. Our affinity groups we talked about, and then something else that we really would like your input on is having somebody from EDAC to be a representative on our minority recruitment and retention committee. And I know Jarrett and I briefly talked about that, and I spoke to Dr. Food and Mrs. Harrell. We would love to have that crossover if that's something of interest for this committee.
Yeah, I think the only question is there a volunteer or are we gonna voluntold?
And there we go.
Everybody's got eyes down to their paper. We know it's work.
We don't mind doing that. We okay with doing that.
Yeah. So we'll work with, Mr. Quisenberry and make that connection, right?
Sounds good.
Okay.
And again, we just want to thank you. I know you have a lot to cover on a night like this, and we really appreciate your time, your engagement, and your rich discussion. I feel like we have a lot of great ideas that we can take back. And if you continue to generate ideas, if you hear of something or something that bubbles up while you're driving home tonight, please email Jared or somebody on your, or Mr. Quisenberry, and we'll definitely get in touch and see how we can best implement. Thank you.
And that's right. I know you don't want to mention this, but yet, because it's not yet big. But we want your team, Dr. Fluid, will be presenting, because now, thank God, we can all do Zoom, to Kenyan, to African organizations, African Development for Good Governance, Kenya Women in the United States, Kenyan American Sisters Power. There are a number of big organizations which have people who are not working as teachers or they're working as teachers. All they need is to hear you guys, and they want to come here action. They do. So we need a little bit more.
Yeah.
We're also trying some international programs. We'll handle that a little bit later on, maybe another day.
Okay. Thank you. Dr. Root, anything? Good. Hey, thank you all for letting us be here. Thank you.
Did you guys have a card or website?
All right, next on the agenda, we have the update on Ms. Vaughn.
The website to apply is there too?
Okay, so, probably one of the things that's highest on update list is how the superintendent search is going. So I've jotted down some things so I wouldn't forget the steps that we have taken. As you probably know, Dr. Atkins is retiring. His last day will be June 30th. And what we have decided to do on the school board, we have already started our interim superintendent search. And we are going to be searching, and I'll tell you about this in just a minute, doing a national search for permanent superintendent. And of course, people within the district as well as outside of the district will be eligible for that. And Suzette has been actually very, very helpful in getting the initial steps going. First thing we did was create an advertisement, and Suzette did the first draft of it, and of course, the school board, we're always going to tweak everything, so we did a little bit of tweaking and developed an ad which, by and large, comes from the description, the job description for the superintendent, the present job description that we have. We had some places to post that were recommended by HR. We looked into a few more, so we set a budget and we decided on where we wanted to post for the interim, and we set a date of May 21st because we want to do a quick turnaround and get working on that so that whoever the interim turns out to be, he or she would have an opportunity to work in tandem with Dr. Atkins for at least the last couple weeks before Dr. Atkins retires. And we felt like that would be a better transition, a smoother transition. We have also, you can see the word consultant, which might be a little misleading. We've been using the word facilitator because we felt like it would be best to have a facilitator out. We've had great help from Cindy McClung and Lauren Stillwell, but they have other duties that they need to do, and we're going to be meeting a lot just on this one particular issue of getting a new interim and then permanent superintendent. We wanted somebody who would be outside the school district, totally objective, and also not be put in an awkward situation. So for all those reasons, we have hired a facilitator. I've seen some comments in emails and also a couple of out loud comments that we're hiring somebody to tell us what to do, or somebody who, no, it's not that at all. It's going to be, it is a facilitator. We're going to be meeting again on this Friday. We have a workshop meeting, and the facilitator will be there for the first time. It's Mr. Scott Cashman is the person that we hired to help us out with that. What we're going to be doing that day is, actually we're working now with two things at once. We're going to, and we've used a lot of the information that we've gotten from HR. We know that HR has, that's what they do, they hire people. So they have all kinds of rubrics and questions and that sort of thing. So we're going to get some of the rubric questions or the rubric questions from HR. We're also going to use the input of our facilitator and ourselves as board members and come up with a rubric, because come May 21st, we're going to have the cover letters and resumes. It's not an application where, you know, you fill in your name, address, how many years. It's going to be a cover letter and a resume. And the way that we're going to get that as board members is our board secretaries, the resumes come to the office, not to us as individuals. It comes to the board office. They are, let's see, it's a OneNote. I'm not good at, hey, when I first started in the business of education, I was typing on a manual typewriter with nothing. And so it's been a whole learning experience with all the different documents, but it's going to be a OneNote document. It's going to, they're going to be able to put it together as the resumes come in. It's not going to be shareable, it's going to be a PDF, and also we are all going to get that digital document on May 21st. And so we're going to have our rubric set up. So we have already planned that weekend of the 22nd and 23rd that we're going to be going over the resumes and cover letters and using our rubric. When we meet on Friday, we're going to discuss how we're going to score the rubrics. There are, you know, lots of different ways. You could do averaging, you could do how many were first, second, third. We're going to hammer that out. We are also, at the same time, we're looking ahead to our search for the permanent superintendent. And we understand that the typical length of time for something like that is 6 to 9 months. And so, in the best of all in the best of all worlds, we hope to have somebody by the 6 months, but it may be longer than a 6-month time frame. So if it were 6 months, I think that we put it out to around the beginning of 2022. Let's see what else. Okay, so we're gonna have information on the search firms, and moving forward, we're gonna evaluate that and choose a search firm. And then, of course, we have to do board votes on many of these items. So that's where we are right now. And is that a question, or you just scratching your head? Okay, Sean? Go ahead.
So I'm a little bit confused. You're doing a national search for the interim?
No. Well, it's going out that way. And one of the reasons for that is, there are a lot of people, as we've already talked about here, that come to Florida, for the weather and that sort of thing.
So
An interim could be a
national.
retired former superintendent,
Right.
here
And
part-time.
The reason I ask is because Fort Myers just went through this with the police chief, and they had a public committee that was doing this type of work.
For the interim?
For their chief. The interim, they just appointed someone within because they worked with the superintendent or the chief and worked side by side, so they were in the chain of command. But for the national search they did for the chief, then they had a public committee go ahead and do, basically have HR go and tear down 10 folks. And then they.
And so I kind of cut off my explanation of what we're doing as of like the 14th. But what we've already done is, I didn't know I had it as a note, and I forgot to mention it. We already have a page that will be going live. It's been planned out, but it'll be going live on our website that has, for the interim, a place for public comment. But frankly, for the interim, we're doing a quick turnaround. However, we have a whole list of things that are expectations. And this is what the national search firm will be helping us with. And the list, and I think we might have gotten it from HR or somewhere. I don't know where we've gotten a lot of information, but the list includes all the possibilities of groups, and it's going to include advisory, public, all kinds of entities. And that's a great question, and that is included, but it's going to be with the permanent superintendent. Yeah, that will be covered, and that's probably very end of May into June that we'll be getting into that.
And since we have HR here, and they might be able to answer this a little bit better. I know it's hard to even fill the positions that we have available, but how about succession planning for these types of events? Do we have a command chain? Do we have, if this person gets hit by a Mack truck tomorrow, this person is going to take over that position?
Yes, we do.
And do we have anything like that for the superintendent, or is that?
There is a document, and yes, is the short answer.
So our board doesn't want to follow that document, is that?
I can't speak for the board.
Now, does the board not want to follow that document?
I can speak for me.
Okay.
I can speak for what we have discussed. No, there is, from my point of view and from some of our discussion, it's not like the President of the United States and there's a big V. And by the Constitution, it goes to the Vice President, and it goes to the, all the different steps that we have. We don't really have that here.
We have a succession document, and it does outline who would move into what places and all of that. That document does exist.
But isn't it more for?
No, from the superintendent down through the executive director.
Okay, but we're not following that that's not how we're going to be doing
Right,
this.
exactly, that was the
Oh,
question.
okay.
So that was the question I had, is
Why not?
if we have this
Why not?
document,
Because some of us, and again, I am speaking for me. And it is something that I have said on the dais, so it's not a secret. There are people like me who campaigned on change. We talked about Robert E. Lee County. I haven't seen yet the change that I would like to see. And I'm not putting blame on anybody, I'm just saying, I'm not happy with directions and things that I have seen. This is me talking, I'm not talking for the board.
all right,
And
so,
so we had enough support with the idea that some of us, and as usual, pretty much split board, some of us want to see a change in direction, and some people on the board want to see going in, continue
okay.
on the same line.
And I can appreciate that, I just know, I work with a lot of businesses,
Okay,
and we have to plan for succession.
all right.
And the board of directors usually follows that document because it was thought out. It's sort of like a will in some ways, or a trust document where, this is what I want done with, I want to be cremated, or I want to be buried.
But that's not,
It's a pre-directive that is sort of laid out, and they made that decision from a business standpoint. And reinventing that every time we would have to look for someone would be quite.
and if we don't reinvent, again, this is from Betsy Vaughn, if we don't reinvent, we are never going to move forward as a county. Okay, that's how I feel, and there are others on the board that feel the same way. You know what? It doesn't mean that people who are administrators now in the district can't apply. And it may well be that we choose one of those people. We're not counting anybody out. But you ask, why are we not going with the chain of command? And besides, if Dr. Atkins is absent for a day because he's sick or something short-term happens, he, as a matter of fact, he usually designates Dr. Pruitt to stand in for him on that day or those days during vacation time. But he's the board employee, and as far as I'm concerned, he doesn't have the right to designate who a permanent person is going to be.
Well, it's not permanent, it's temporary.
Well, this is our position to choose, and maybe some people don't agree, and there are people on the board that don't agree. I don't want to spend forever on this because there's still a couple things to go, but a couple more questions, Holly, and I do then, have a quick question. Yeah, and then Probably Peter. not, you may not know this answer, Ms. Pruitt, maybe you, I don't know if anyone does. So we're doing a search for an interim, and then we're also doing a search for the long term. Exactly.
Any idea of even approximate what the search for the interim is going to run the district?
That interim, we have it on our work plan, I think it's June 15th. We will be done with that.
Okay.
And yes, we could have just picked somebody.
Sure.
The
Is there a
last
cost
time, I'll tell you
associated
how it
with
was
that?
done last time. I wasn't on the board then, but how it was done last time, a board member picked up, actually, she didn't even pick it up and talk. She texted someone who happened to be Dr. Atkins. Wouldn't you like to be superintendent now? Because you'll remember Dr. Graham left rather abruptly. And then the board decided to keep, they were happy with how Dr. Atkins performed. and the board decided to keep him. They voted to keep him, and it wasn't a unanimous vote. It was not. We could have.
I hate to cut you short. You're getting short on time.
Okay, anyway, bottom line is, and I promised Peter, bottom line is,
The taxpayers' money is gonna
yeah,
pay for the interim
we
search.
could've done
Why
it
do you need to?
that way, but we decided that we wanted to That's do not it. what I asked. Yeah, Then,
Is there a cost associated, an approximate cost to get an interim selected?
yes, $3,000 on the ads and no more than $2,500 for, the facilitator. So those are the two costs, that's the entire budget. And staff, some staff time. Peter, and then I.
Yes, I just want to go to that, but I don't want to take too long, but I want to support Sean and support everybody. Yeah. That if there's a system that was already laid in place, it would be very unfortunate if the board decides not to follow that system. You have already made the decision, but for the final one, yes. For the interim, I don't know, you may say it's not a lot of money, but it probably needed to follow the system. I just wanted that in my mind.
Well, and that could be something that's brought up in the future. One other thing I didn't mention is, it is in the, it will be in the contract of the person who becomes the interim, that he or she is not eligible to be the, permanent.
What? Then we taking so long for going through our process. But, with respect to the board, I wish we can see that document, it would be helpful. Dr. Fu, you guys have that document?
That's gonna conclude it, you want it to know, I'm telling you, and I have differentiated what's coming from me. That decision that I just said, that was a board vote.
Awesome.
Mr. Edie?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple of things for consideration. In the coming weeks and days, you'll receive notification that you're up for reappointment. Our recording secretary is not able to join us tonight, so thank you very much, Ms. Torres, for stepping in, and of course, to support us in that. So you will receive a letter from either Ms. Carroll or also Ms. Reader, letting you know if your term has expired and if you so desire to seek an additional term as a part of the committee. An additional point, meeting with our EDAC chair and also our board liaison. Once everything is finalized, what the board is working on related to the job description for the interim superintendent, we will share that information out with all of you so you have it. And if there's opportunities for Ms. Vaughn to receive any questions that you would like for her to pose to any candidates that come through the interim search process, we will share those with the recording secretary, who will then share those with Ms. Vaughn. Okay? That's all I have for that. Thank you so much to our HR team for your support tonight and the great feedback that you were able to provide to the HR team.
Yeah, thank you. Feedback.
And then in addition, I'm not sure if we have, but we'll share it with you all. The Department of Diversity and Inclusion will continue our support our student summer initiative this summer, something that was the brainchild of your committee member, Mr. Kim Burns, a couple of years ago. We had a great opportunity to collaborate with. So this summer, we will pivot back to a very small in-person model, not able to expand to the 2 sites. Due to COVID-19 restrictions and CDC guidelines, as we ease out of that, we'll ease back into the model that we crafted a couple of years ago. So that's all I have. Once again, reappointment information will be shared with everyone whose terms are about to expire and lapse. And as we move forward, working with Ms. Vaughn as your board liaison, sharing the contextual information for the job description and advertisement for the interim superintendent, toward the goal of, if you have any questions that you would like from Ms. Vaughn to consider sharing with any candidates, we will share those with her and her due diligence. Mr. Chairman, thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Edie. So this is our last official meeting for board policy. We have received a number of presentations this year. It is my recommendation that we vote to have one additional meeting in June to discuss what our board recommendations would be for this calendar year, to go back through our notes and look at some things that were presented to us so that we can make recommendations to the board. We can make new recommendations, or we can support recommendations that we already have in place, and then we want to keep moving forward.
So.
Do you need a motion for that?
I do.
I would love to make that motion.
that we have a meeting in June to wrap up our thoughts for this year.
Is there a second to that motion?
I second that.
Can we make a recommendation to just have an extended meeting for one day? Does it mean twice?
We're meeting once.
So you're wanting to extend our current meeting?
You're saying to have 2 meetings in June?
No.
Oh, okay. Oh.
Because technically this is our last meeting for the
That's right,
board.
okay, gotcha.
What day would it be?
June 14th.
June 14th.
Oh,
So we have a motion by Ms. Martin, we have a second by Mr. Burns. Is there a question?
Yes. This would be considered a workshop since we're only, required to meet through, is it May? Is that correct?
If I may, for point of clarification, Mr. Chair, Mr. Williams, you do have the ability to extend by one additional meeting. So this would be a standard meeting of your advisory committee, giving you the purview to take any recommendations or actions to share with the board.
So it would be a required attendance meeting per the board policies.
If we adopt it.
Or just interpretation on that, another way to maybe move beyond it, the board policy sets a requirement for meeting totals, and we did not meet in the month of November, if I'm not mistaken, due to the hurricane. So technically, even if you schedule this meeting as an extension of your calendar year or as a replacement meeting for November, I would say this would still be within the guidelines established for the board policy.
And the reason I make the differentiation between a workshop and a meeting is because all meetings are in executive order are required to be in person. Whereas a workshop is not. So could we consider this a workshop rather than a meeting?
I would go back to the board attorney. However, the context that was provided, and I think there were still some things trying to be worked out. The parameters for meetings that were workshop meetings, I don't believe that's been approved and moved forward. I think it was the hope of the board attorney to have that flexibility of having the distinction between an action meeting / a board meeting or committee meeting and a workshop. However, we did give some guidance to the committee chairs and the staff liaison, board liaisons, of having the ability to have Zoom meetings where individuals who could not attend physically could then participate via Zoom, with the caveat that there had to be a physical quorum present in the room for the meeting to move forward.
Right.
So, and we have not gotten to the section where we're establishing a workshop meeting versus an actual board advisory committee meeting. Right now, we're still in the position of having official board advisory committee meetings, but with some parameters established for individuals who cannot make it to the actual meeting in person.
So in Finance Advisory Committee, what we've done is we've voted to have workshop meetings throughout the summer. Those are not required attendance, so the absences don't count against the person, against their 3. And it still allows us to meet with public notice and have those discussions where no quorum is required. And also we're not beat up because we went on a summer vacation with our families. So the reason I'm saying that is because I would like to amend that meeting to be a workshop rather than a meeting, so that we could not be required to attend if need be, we'll come up on summer.
Well, the only thing I would say, that Mr. Williams, is if we do make it a workshop and we don't have quorum and we can't conduct the business, and then we can't make a recommendation. So I would suggest that we have an official meeting, we have our quorum, we make a recommendation, and then in that meeting, if we want to discuss having workshops throughout the summer, we can move towards that. Okay. So is there a vote? All in favor of having a meeting in June?
Yes.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. Motion carries. Ms. Siskon, you said you had a comment for good of the order?
Thank you. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
The school board is considering removing the best practice guide because of false information about the use of restrooms and changing facilities instead of standing up for our most vulnerable students. Currently, 22 schools, that's 1/3 of Florida's districts are using the same best policy practices guide that we are on page 84 of our student code of conduct. It has become the standard moving forward. To remove this now after it has already been put into place would have a very negative impact on the LGBTQ+ students and staff in Lee County. There is no problem here with the policy. Lee County is legally required to protect and meet the unique needs of LGBTQ+ youth, including our transgender young people. This guide provides clear procedures for schools so that the faculty and staff can follow the existing policies and current law and to ensure that all of our students are treated equitably. Removing these guidelines doesn't remove the responsibility, leading into misinformation and fear. I was alarmed to hear board member Chris Patrica ask at the April 26th meeting what would be the ramifications of not following a federally mandated guideline. Under Title IX, schools must provide equal access to educational programs and activities, even in circumstances where others, including the student's parents or community, raise concerns. A school's interest in providing privacy for its students or other parents' discomfort with a transgender student in the restroom does not relieve the school of the obligation. This has been an ongoing issue since October. LGBTQ+ History Month was removed from the agenda. A choice the board made, and I hope now at this time the consequences of those actions have become apparent. We were assured here in EDAC, in email, and through public comment that the board would be educated to speak properly on LGBTQ+ issues. That did not happen. There was a public workshop, yes. The changes in language and understanding from the board that needed to happen did not happen. That is not to say our wonderful leaders here in the committee didn't try. We asked about a student-led LGBTQ+ advisory committee. Abigail Reed spoke here about it in October. Board members stated that it could be a subcommittee through EDAC. Abigail has 181 student signatures to form this committee currently. We would like answers as to how this can happen and when. We want some answers on this, and we want the student-led advisory committee. It is difficult to come here as a community and share what our needs are and request that the school board educate themselves on our issues and to not seek any progress or changes moving forward. It is difficult to serve on a committee and feel like we need to be watchdogs or continue to solve ongoing unnecessary crises rather than focusing on positive strides. I think it is important that the board recognizes how difficult it is for members of the LGBTQ+ community to publicly out themselves and speak up for rights that they are guaranteed by law while surrounded by antagonistic speakers and situations to hope to reach a board who is not doing anything publicly or outwardly to reach toward us. I ask that the board speak up louder and assure the LGBTQ+ community that they understand these issues and they see this fear and political division for what it is. We do not hear anyone speaking up for the LGBTQ+ youth. Let us strive together, continuing to push the needle of progress forward for all of our community, not just whoever shows up and complains the loudest. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Curry. Are there any other comments for the order? Mr. Williams?
I would just like to speak in addition and thank you very much. That was very warm. And it is a shame that the students of this district have to stand up and out themselves to teach adults how to behave. And the training that the board went through, as Crystal said, did absolutely nothing. There are still horrible speeches from the dais about actively discriminating against our students and misgendering folks. These are not biological males. These are women and men, or young men and young women, and children and students. And we have completely overlooked the humanity of people and focused too much on the policy. And these are students' lives. They're being the wedge in this community that is dividing not only our board, but our community itself. And they have to stand up and fight for their own lives while trying to just survive being a teenager. It's a shame.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Any additional comments for the order?
Just, sorry, just, I would love to hear, I don't know, Mr. Bradley, I would love to hear some feedback from more students regarding this issue.
And it is certainly something we want to work on and make happen. So I appreciate your input tonight and your comments tonight. It is certainly something that we're planning to make sure happens going forward. And thank you for that input.
And Ms. Parr, you can bring that up as a recommendation moving forward to the next meeting. Move that idea further along for having a student advisory council. Go along with what you were saying, Ms. All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Motion and second.
Second and half.
It was nice chatting with you. Nice to meet you.
You
can tell your son
I will. I'm gonna tell him to call you too for a job. So this is where he would go?
Yes.
He pulls his resume
Yes,
together.
and listen, if he gets stuck, just have him call my office, leave a message, and we'll have somebody help him. No worries.
She remembers him.
And look at that.
Yeah. Can I show you a picture of him?
Let me see.
Oh my God.
I'm sure thank you.
Thank you. I do too.
Yeah, he's just.
But he is, okay, he would be a good PE teacher. Let me see. So a close up.
Oh, God, he is. He is so handsome. Yeah, that's what I told her. I said, call me, and I'll walk him through.
I did not know you, I mean, I know you left.
Yeah, I know.
Why? But I didn't know.
Yeah, down here, yeah.
You're in HR.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I took a picture with you. I gotta tell people I saw you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna stop. I saw you.